Your money is entering the wrong hands. A woman is smiling as she takes what is yours. Archangel Michael says, the alarm has already rung in the unseen, and I bring it to you now so you can stand, reclaim, and secure what belongs to you. The river of your resources bends toward a hand that is not clean, and yet it looks gentle and warm on the surface. A smile covers a scheme, and the scheme feeds on your silence. A faint shift began when you were distracted, and a door opened where you kept your attention low. Small permissions stacked like invisible stones and formed a path straight to your accounts. The path looks neat because someone swept the prints behind her. A name was whispered in places you do not visit often, and it was attached to your value. The whisper turned into a signature that looked almost like yours when the light dimmed. By the time morning kissed the windows, a wire already crossed the line. She learned your routines and mapped your mood like a cartographer of shadows. She handed gifts that matched your taste because she studied the trail you left in small conversations. She imitated support until you leaned your weight on air. Your generosity became the costume she wore in every room, and people believed the costume because it fit. She spoke about your bright future while pocketing your present. Every promise was a glove hiding a careful grip. The first loss felt like a forgotten coin and you dismissed it for peace. The second dressed as a fee, and the third disguised itself as gratitude. Soon a pattern formed like rings inside a tree you never cut. She smiled at clerks, and they relaxed and nodded because smiles can soften gates. She knew the hour when lines were longest and patience was shortest, and she used the rush as her shield. She blended with your story until no one noticed the swap of roles. Your passwords lived in memory shortcuts that repeated in your life like a melody. She listened to the melody and guessed the notes you love. She watched you save inside a browser and decided the lock was made of thread. A favor was asked on a day your shoulders already carried too much. You approved a request because fatigue makes every signature heavier than it looks. She thanked you with eyes that reflected a future that was never meant for you. She learned your circle and greeted your friends with warmth. She borrowed their trust and spent it like currency. Their comfort with her became your risk multiplied by many faces. Sometimes the theft is not a single blow but a soft erosion that hides inside kindness. It calls you dear while counting your digits. It tells you to relax while it opens a drawer with quiet fingers. You sensed something, and your chest tugged like a cord pulled from behind a curtain. You looked at numbers that felt thinner than they should be. Every thin line in the ledger told a story that did not match your day. She loves proof that looks harmless, and she leaves trails that resemble routine. She uses rounding errors as a playground. She calls it convenience and paints it with your favorite color. This is not only about funds but about the dignity attached to them. Your effort has weight and fragrance, and she wants both without your permission. She collects the scent of your victories and wears it as perfume. I saw her stand in a mirror rehearsing the exact softness of her mouth. She practiced innocence until her face could pass every gate. She held the language of empathy like a tool crafted from glass. Your future is not a reservoir for another person's drought. Your dreams are not an ATM that opens with flattery. Your labor is not a slope designed for someone else's slide. There are papers with your name that need new locks. There are accounts with your breath that need a stronger seal. There are subscriptions with quiet drip that must be turned off before night. Begin by listing every place your value lives and every door that leads to it. A map in front of you defeats the fog inside you. Put a flame of attention on every point until the shadows flee. Change the keys that open your vaults and let the old keys dissolve. Replace the patterns that feel familiar because familiarity is the bridge she walks. Break the melody so she cannot hum it in the dark. Call your bank like a commander who understands the field. Freeze what must be frozen and watch every thaw with new eyes. Demand alerts that speak louder than whispers. Look into your statements and circle the noises that pretend to be silence. Every small drip is a drum if you put your ear to it. Every false gift becomes a red thread once your pen touches it. Shut the doors that rely on trust without proof. Trust is holy, and proof is its guard. Keep both near in every transaction that carries your name. She may try a soft apology when light lands on her pattern. She may speak of stress, emergencies, and temporary needs. She may promise return while planning another harvest. Your compassion has a spine and it stands without bending to manipulation. Your boundaries are not cruel, they are the scaffolding of your peace. Your resolve does not injure, it heals what was injured. Hold your documents in order, and keep copies where the sky feels clear. Log times, numbers, and names on pages that cannot be edited by charm. Let the record sing the truth so your memory rests. Do not negotiate with a smile that arrived to steal. A smile without respect is a blade with glitter. A tone without integrity is a rope dipped in honey. She found access through a friend who meant well, and sometimes love becomes a loose hinge. Tighten the hinge without punishing the door. Teach your circle the new rules of entry. She will search for new side doors when the front gate closes. She may try your phone, your mail, your old accounts, or your grief. She may use your celebrations as a cover because noise hides hands. You will guard on the days you feel strongest and on the days you feel soft. You will guard with calm rather than fear. You will guard with knowledge rather than suspicion scattered like broken glass. Today your attention becomes a shield and also a sword that cuts false ties. Today your voice becomes a lock with a clear click. Today your focus chooses you first, and everything else lines up behind. You are not alone at this desk where numbers glow. I stand with you at the console and I restore your authority. I hold a mirror to every hidden channel until each one closes or shines clean. Clean your digital closets and remove permissions that do not serve you. Delete shared access that feels stale and unloved. Archive what is finished so the present breathes. Set a new ritual for morning and night where you read the reality of your resources. Let morning be your inspection and night your confirmation. Let each day begin and end with clarity that speaks softly but firmly. She may have used your kindness as a rope ladder, and now you pull the ladder back. You do not hate the climber, but you deny the climb. You choose fairness that does not enable harm. Your hand writes a letter to all institutions that carry your name. Your tone is calm and exact. Your requests are precise and final. Your house begins to taste like order again. The cabinets of your life close with satisfying sound. The air feels taller and kinder in your rooms. You stop apologizing for protecting your effort. You stop shrinking when others call you selfish because they lost access. You stop explaining boundaries to those who profit from your confusion. You invest in learning that cannot be stolen. You store skill in places no thief can reach. You grow security like trees with deep roots. The woman who smiled at the bank window finds a new mirror. The mirror shows her hands without rings that do not belong. The mirror shows her reflection asking for a different life that does not borrow your name. Forgiveness becomes your private medicine, and accountability becomes your public policy. You release the bitter weight while keeping the wise lesson. You walk forward without dragging the past by its hair. There is a season where quiet recovery rebuilds momentum. You let your accounts refill like wells after rain. You bless your own stewardship and it answers by multiplying. Your phone no longer vibrates with strange confirmations that do not match your plans. Your email filters stand like guardians at the gate. Your two-factor keys dance in your pocket like loyal companions. You surround yourself with counsel that loves your freedom. Professionals who use clarity rather than riddles sit with you at the table. Agreements are written in lines that hold and never blur. You learn to celebrate without leaking. You learn to give without handing over your steering wheel. You learn to share from overflow rather than from the core that keeps you alive. The old pattern tries to return in a different mask, but you recognize the rhythm under the costume. You pause and the rhythm loses power. You choose a new step and move in a cleaner direction. You honor every hour that built your resources. You honor every sacrifice that shaped your stability. You honor the part of you that refused to break even when others depended on your fog. Your home becomes a sanctuary for wise circulation. Money flows like blood in a strong body. Every organ receives what it needs, and no parasite feeds for free. You place a threshold blessing on your accounts with practical steps. You use locks, alerts, reconciliation, and review. You do not rely on luck when structure can serve you better. New partners approach with glowing promises, and you weigh words against actions. You test claims against time. You let patience expose the truth. You cultivate a network that honors consent. You seek peers who celebrate your sovereignty. You form bonds where transparency is standard rather than exception. You remember that you are the keeper of your field. You decide who plants, who waters, and who harvests with you. You do not surrender the gate to a smile or a sob story. She no longer sits in rooms where your name opens doors. She no longer copies the cadence of your voice. She no longer travels on routes you designed for your family. Your calendar now contains checkpoints that anchor your month. On each checkpoint you reconcile, adjust, and restore. On each checkpoint you thank your future for waiting with patience while you strengthen your present. You clean the last hidden drawer of shared secrets. You remove the stray spare key under the old mat. You move the mat and leave the ground bare so you can see everything as it truly is. You become the kind of caretaker who can be generous without fear. You give with joy because your structure protects your heart. You help others build structure so they can give with joy too. She turns her smile inward toward the work she must do on herself. She learns that costly shortcuts take more than they give. She learns that integrity tastes better than stolen sugar. You feel the joy of rightful possession settle in your bones. You stand taller because what you own is aligned with what you earned. You breathe easier because your yes now means yes and your no now means no. Your future hears the news that you are awake. Your opportunities arrive to a door supervised by wisdom. Your legacy grows in clean soil and bears fruit that nourishes your name. I seal your borders with clarity and courage. I fortify your habits with steady peace. I bless your attention so it becomes a friendly guardian rather than a relentless critic. You are allowed to reset without shame. You are allowed to learn without punishment. You are allowed to protect your effort without apology. Everything you touch will be traced to fairness. Everything you build will be signed by diligence. Everything you share will be accounted for and respected. The woman who smiled begins to fade from your horizon like fog under noon sun. Her routes no longer cross your maps. Her memory becomes a lesson rather than a wound. You walk forward with accounts that balance and a heart that rests. You walk forward with structure that supports expansion. You walk forward with a name that shines on every page where it appears. Your story becomes a manual for those who come after you. Your example becomes a lighthouse for anyone who once let generosity blur into risk. Your victory becomes proof that attention is love in motion. I have spoken this to your life so you remember your worth. I have drawn a line and placed your resources on the side where you stand. I have wrapped your effort with protection that does not sleep. Rise and audit without fear. Rise and repair without drama. Rise and proceed with calm authority. You now live under a new agreement with yourself. You now choose partners who can carry their share. You now reserve your gates for hands that show respect. The river of your income runs clear again. The banks are reinforced and the crossings are guarded. The bridges hold because they are built from truth. Your eyes know what to see and what to ignore. Your ears know which tone belongs in your house. Your hands know which paper to sign and which folder to close forever. This is your season of recovery that becomes increase. This is your hour of order that becomes freedom. This is your path of wisdom that becomes abundance aligned with peace. Walk this path and do not look back for permission. Walk this path and let your momentum praise your discipline. Walk this path and watch every gate open at your name because it is you using your name with honor. I stand with you as you complete every correction. I stand with you as you simplify your flow. I stand with you as you bless your own stewardship and witness results solid as stone. A smile once covered a scheme, and now a smile announces your clarity. A hand once reached for what was not hers, and now your hands affirm what is yours. A plan once walked quietly, and now your plan walks openly in daylight. Keep moving in truth that does not bend for flattery. Keep moving with structure that does not collapse for urgency. Keep moving with kindness that does not confuse itself with access. Your wealth is not only numbers, it is also time, energy, and attention. Your wealth is not only accounts, it is also boundaries, standards, and relationships. Your wealth is not only possessions, it is also peace. You are not a victim in your own house. You are the keeper, the builder, and the one who decides. You are the author of this chapter and its pages are already turning clean. Let this message sit in your chest like a steady drum. Let it call your focus back whenever you drift. Let it bless every transaction with awareness that feels like light. Wherever you once felt small, you now stand measured and whole. Wherever you once felt fooled, you now stand instructed and strong. Wherever you once felt used, you now stand treasured by your own choices. Your money returns to the correct hands, which are your own. Your effort returns to your table as nourishment. Your future returns to your doorstep as invitation. Proceed and keep your crown aligned with your ledger. Proceed and let your routines praise your name. Proceed and rest in the confidence of rightful possession. I surround your accounts with wisdom that listens and sees. I surround your records with honesty that cannot be counterfeited. I surround your life with doors that open only to respect. The smile that stole has no more power here. The pattern that drained has no more access here. The story that hurt has no more chapters here. You are complete, alert, and at peace. You are generous, strategic, and guarded by clarity. You are free, prosperous, and unbothered by false charm. This is done in the realm of decision and action. This is done in the realm of structure and calm. This is done in the realm where your name remains yours. Archangel Michael says, "The hour of confusion has passed and the hour of clean action stands at your door." The clutter that once protected her movements no longer exists in your house. The blueprint of your resources now sits in your hands like a clear map with bright roads. You begin with the smallest hinge that swings the largest door. You rename every account with titles that make sense only to you. You change every recovery path so it lands where only you can stand. You gather your documents into 3 strong boxes that live in different safe places. One box carries originals that breathe like roots. One box carries copies that travel when needed. One digital vault becomes the 4th box that cannot be touched by casual hands. You guard its key with a method that remembers more than a mind. You practice the move until your fingers know it without noise. Statements arrive and you greet them like guests who speak truth. You compare each line to the calendar of your life. You cross out anything that shows up without invitation. You contact institutions with language that carries weight. You note times and keep proof like cool stones in a jar. You let the jar show anyone who needs to understand. A quiet audit of recurring charges becomes a fresh wind. You cancel what no longer serves your road. You replace what is necessary with versions that respect your boundary. Your devices receive a deep cleansing that lifts old permission. You remove apps that feed on your attention and your data. You install guardians that alert without panic and inform without noise. The woman who smiled feels the climate change around you. She senses that the door that once opened has learned a new lock. She begins to rehearse a softer story, but the story dissolves under your bright lamp. Your language is firm and kind, and it does not bend. Your tone holds the line without heat. Your words carry proof and leave no corners for excuses to hide. You set a rhythm for review that matches your life. Weekly becomes your heartbeat for cash flow and alerts. Monthly becomes your panoramic view with simple charts you can read at a glance. You adopt a rule that every significant transfer waits for a second look. You let time be your trusted partner that cools urgency into wisdom. You teach your circle this rule so they can keep their peace as well. New agreements form around you like rails that hold a train on track. You sign only when the terms sing clarity from start to finish. You decline what glitters if the structure does not shine. Your social spaces receive a careful sweep. You remove public hints that reveal patterns about your movement. You keep warmth in conversations without broadcasting keys that open your life. You practice the art of saying no without explanation. You let the no stand on its own feet. You feel how the air in your life becomes calmer when access has a cost. A mentor appears who loves the way order frees a person. You learn small skills that carry big value. You invest in knowledge that stretches beyond the reach of thieves. Your identity records receive the attention they deserve. You lock the ones that can be frozen. You monitor the ones that need watchful eyes like sentries on a wall. You design a strong ritual for large decisions. You write the decision, the reason, the risk, and the protection. You revisit the page later and see your growth in ink. Your workspace becomes a sanctuary for precision. Your folders carry names that help you breathe. Your desktop shows only what you need and nothing else. Trusted allies gather around the new standard you lead. They mirror your care with their own. They respect the gate because you model how to hold it with grace. You create a small emergency reserve that lives away from general sight. You feed it slowly like a plant that thrives on steady water. You protect it from impulsive storms that sometimes pass through a week. Your generosity becomes strategic rather than reactive. You give through channels that honor your values and verify impact. You feel the difference between compulsion and choice, and you choose choice. The woman searches for sympathy that would reopen the door. The script she used in other places does not work here. Your calm silence teaches her that consequence has finally arrived. You send a simple letter that closes the last shared link. Its message is brief and professional. It leaves no room for leakage and no space for return. You celebrate small wins that prove your direction is true. A corrected charge appears like a coin found under sunlight. An overdraft fee vanishes because you asked with receipts and patience. You reclaim lost promises by focusing on what lives in your hands. You do not chase every shadow from yesterday. You pull energy into today where it can build real walls and real tables. Your sleep deepens because your systems stand while you rest. Your mornings begin with clarity rather than alarm. Your afternoons glide because fires no longer start in secret. You learn to recognize charm without collapsing into it. You notice how integrity sounds like a steady drum. You allow that drum to set the pace of your choices. The people who benefit from confusion slowly fade from your calendar. Their invitations feel heavy and you decline without guilt. Your schedule protects your mind as much as your accounts protect your resources. You revisit your dream list with fresh eyes. You assign dates and budgets that make the dreams walk. You measure progress without shame and adjust without drama. You keep a simple ledger for cash that touches your hand. You respect small numbers because they train big numbers. You discover joy in tracking because tracking returns your power. Every tool you use is understood, not worshipped. You learn the settings that matter and ignore noise that distracts. You design guardrails that act even when you are busy. You set a limit for how much risk lives in one place. You split exposure like a gardener planting in several beds. You avoid single points of failure that invite misfortune. Your language with yourself becomes precise and gentle. You correct mistakes with a firm nod rather than a whip. You return to the path after an error without tearing up the ground. Each month you teach one person you love how to protect their gates. You pass on practices that saved you. You build a culture of clarity that outlives any single event. You keep receipts for the story of your rise. You file them not out of fear but out of wisdom. You bless your future self with evidence that opens difficult doors. You install a pause before every new commitment. The pause is short but powerful. It invites alignment to speak and misalignment to show itself. The mirror in your hallway reflects a different posture. Your shoulders carry decision rather than worry. Your eyes reflect peace rather than hypervigilance. Old habits attempt a last return when life grows comfortable. You hear their footsteps and greet them with the structure you built. They leave without argument because there is no entry left for them. You create a written definition of friendship that includes respect for boundaries. You share it in subtle ways.